Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice located in Encino, California. I'm here today with Dr. Robert Jaffe, who's going to introduce himself and offering a program on codependency, trauma, addictions, all impacting relationships. And we would like to invite you to please call us with your, information about what you think about these topics. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Dr. Mitra Rashidian.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we're here today. We're going to be talking about the genesis, the origins of addictions, of which we have decided to say that codependence is the most widely known addiction, even though for many people it isn't acknowledged as an addiction. We here do believe that it is an addiction, and we say that because we believe that addictions are about trauma, and that trauma is, and we've said this before, trauma comes either in the large T or the small t shape. Large T traumas are what most people agree are traumas. Certainly any kind of cataclysms like earthquakes or hurricanes, those are traumatic for people to live through. And of course, any kind of assaults, physical assault, sexual assault, those are traumatic to live through. One of my clients just got robbed over the weekend, and $20,000 worth of her personal stuff got taken, and that was very traumatic for her. And now she's having to replace it, and she has the money to replace it. It's not that she doesn't have the money, but these were special things to her. These held personal meetings, and so including her toothbrush. She had
Oh my goodness.
Everything got taken. So now she has to replace them, and every time she recognizes that, oh, I don't have this anymore and I don't have that anymore, it's sort of like she gets re-traumatized because she has to remember, oh, somebody took them and somebody invaded my personal space and took what was mine. So trauma.
Well, she's lucky that she wasn't hurt.
Well, yeah, she wasn't there when it happened. So luckily she didn't have that trauma, but she was traumatized. And actually she had several traumas over the weekend, and so she showed up today in session very traumatized, and was very angry, very sad, and very frightened. And these are feelings that everybody goes through when they are traumatized. And it's part of what we call the working through process, is to allow those feelings to come up until we can start to feel a little bit like it's behind us. So going back to addictions, we believe that the majority of addictions come from trauma. And on that note, the vast majority of addictions, we believe, come from childhood trauma. It doesn't mean that all addictions come from childhood trauma, but in my experience, and I worked in an addictions recovery center. I was the consulting therapist there, and I was there for 24 years. And my experience was that everyone that I worked with had been traumatized, and mostly starting in childhood. Some continuing on through today, they were traumatized, often by their own parents. So what then creates addictions? Well, an addiction is an attempt to feel better. We don't start using drugs, we don't start using alcohol because we want to feel the same as we did before we were using the drugs or the alcohol. Why do we do it? We want to feel better.
Yeah, we hear it at parties, come on guys, let's have a drink, let's have fun.
Exactly.
It is
Exactly.
as though, our happiness or having fun or feeling like having fun, it depends on that, drink that we're having or the smoking of a substance or something.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. Changing our feeling state.
right.
Right. So when you want to change your feeling state, is there anything wrong with wanting to change your feeling state? The answer is, of course not. We sometimes we don't like how we're feeling, and we want to change our feeling state. There are a number of ways of changing our feeling state. One is meditation. We can always change our feeling state by meditation, but if we want a quick fix, then we can change our feeling state by using a substance. We can pick up a cigarette. We could start smoking a cigarette. That will change our feeling state. Cigarettes have nicotine, which is an upper, and that changes our feeling state. We can take a drink. Alcohol changes our feeling state. Marijuana changes our feeling state. And both legal and illegal drugs, some of them as well, change our feeling states. So, what's wrong with that? Well, nothing is wrong with that. However, if if you have to use those things continuously to change your feeling states, that means that there's something isn't working inside of you, because what you're doing is your mind and your body are creating negative feeling states, and then you're looking for a way to mollify them.
Exactly.
Right. So what is codependence, and how does codependence change your feeling state? So the joke that I always tell, and people always laugh when I say it, and I think they laugh because they relate to it, because so many people are codependent. I certainly have been in codependent relationships. And the joke is, you go to bed with someone, and in the morning you wake up and you say, "Good morning, how am I?" And why do you say, "How am I?" Well, because you're relying on the other person to tell you whether you're okay or not okay.
Yeah, I hear it from guys that they come to therapy, couples therapy. They say that their wives, puts out their dress for them to wear.
Mm,
It tells them,
their
what
clothing.
their clothing, what to wear. They're putting, they're choosing what to have for breakfast. They're
Mm-hmm.
making their lunchbox, and as though they're supposed to eat that.
Mm-hmm.
They arrange for family gathering and everything. So they just comply with the schedule.
Right.
And then when the wife tells them, I always have to do everything, you never do anything, the guy, the husband will just look at them, well, you manage everything, you never ask me, so I just follow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very common example of a codependent relationship.
Correct. Correct. And what makes it codependent is that you are dependent on the other person to do for you things uh, that you would be better served doing for yourself. Because if you do things for yourself, you get a sense of self satisfaction, a sense of achievement, a good feeling. But that doesn't mean that other people can't do things for you. We do depend on each other in relationships, and sometimes we have roles, and we take over those roles, and the woman does this, and the man does this, and that's fine. However, what makes the relationship codependent is when you are depending on the other person to make you feel a certain way, because you can't create that feeling within yourself.
Right.
And that to me is that's like the essence of codependence. So I rely on you to make me feel good. And what happens if you don't make me feel good? Well, then I get hurt, and then I get angry, and then I blame you because it's your job to make me feel good, and you're not making me feel good, so you're not doing your job. So now I am dependent on you to make me feel good.
So that's a very, important note here. Your job is to make me feel good,
Right.
right? So there are actually relationships when one is really doing everything to make, his or her partner feel good.
Mm-hmm.
However, the other person who doesn't feel good essentially doesn't know how to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no matter what one tries to do for the other person is never pleased. It's never feeling satisfied. It's not never feeling connected. Because I think that essentially when a person needs somebody else to make them happy,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the happiness within themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And therefore they're trying to seek it from somebody else,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then when that happiness is offered, because they cannot relate to it, because they don't know how to experience it, they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel it. Am I correct?
Um, well, I think I well I agree, and also I want to say like a caveat. I think that we can make another person feel happy for a moment.
For a moment,
For a
yeah.
moment, yes. And so that's what addictions are. But addictions actually don't make you feel happy. What addictions do is they take away the pain,
Right.
and they make you and so if you're in pain, using the addiction can make you take you out of pain, and getting you out of pain can appear to you like that's happiness.
That's happiness, yeah,
Right,
exactly.
because you're no longer in
Yes.
pain.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why it doesn't last, it doesn't stay.
No, it
right?
can't last.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In drug culture, they call it getting a fix.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Why do they call it getting a fix? It's because what it does is it fixes your feelings. It makes you feel good or better for a short period of time. And how does it do that? It numbs you, and also can give you a sense of euphoria. So people mistake feeling numbed and euphoric for happiness.
For happiness,
Yes.
yes.
Happiness actually isn't about being numb or euphoric, but to someone who is carrying a lot of emotional pain inside of them, happiness and numbness is a lot better state than the emotional pain that they're in. So they want that state as much as they can get it.
Right.
And so what happens is they look for things that give them that state, that supply that state. And one of the things, and the main thing that you can get, is another person to supply you that state. That other person can make you laugh, right? That other person can make you dinner. That other person can give you sex. That other person can do all these things for you. And so while that person is feeding you dinner, and you're involved in having a nice dinner, you're not in emotional pain anymore. While you're having sex, you're not in emotional pain anymore, right? So that person can fix you, can be your fix. However, when that person is not able to do that, because that person themselves is not in a good place, or that person themselves is struggling, or you're not with that person, you're in another location, and you're not communicating with that person, then you don't have that person to rely on, and therefore you're still carrying that emotional pain.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a fascinating topic, and we need to learn so much about codependency and how it, manifests itself within different contexts in life.
Yes.
Right. So more of that we can discuss after our commercial break.
We're about to take a commercial break,
yes.
And we would like you to call us 951-922-3532. Please call us. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. For those of you just tuning in, our discussion for this segment is about codependency, trauma, addictions, impacting relationships. And then we would like to hear from you, your experience, your life story, your challenges, how you managed to overcome them, and how do you, feel today about all those challenges and your success, or you're still struggling. That's why we're here for. Please call us at 951 922 3532. And Dr. Jaffe.
Yes, ma'am. So we were talking about the origin, the genesis of addictions, of which codependence is the largest addiction. Certainly, it's the largest untreated addiction, because many couples and individuals as well are living in codependent realities without being aware that they are, and so they're only satisfied when that codependent reality is come to fruition, when they're in a codependent reality with another person, and that person is satisfying their needs, wants, and desires. Then they feel satisfied for that period of time. I'm working now out of a book that I'm sharing with you, which is actually the best book that I've come across in all my years of doing this, and I think of it as the Bible of codependence, and it's called Codependence: Healing the Human Condition, by the author is Charles Whitfield, MD. He also wrote another great book called Healing the Child Within, and this book was published. So it's an older book, but it really is great because it breaks codependence down in very simple terms. Anybody can understand it. And it also tells you the healing process. So I love this book, and I work out of this book a lot when I'm sharing with you. So the first thing that we're talking about is any kind of addiction starts with emotional pain. This is now, can addictions come from physical pain? Yes. So when I say any kind of addiction, that's a bit of an overstatement. I'm going to take it back. A lot of addictions come from emotional pain. They can also start with physical pain. So sometimes people do get addicted because they are in physical pain. They take a pain reliever, and after a while, the pain reliever starts to be misused. But the reason it's being misused is because they like the feeling that it gives them. So even when they're not in physical pain, usually the pain reliever will take the physical pain away, but it won't make you euphoric. But if you take a pain reliever and you become euphoric, it means you're taking too much of the pain reliever. But if you become euphoric and you start liking the euphoria, then the pain medication that you started with can definitely turn into an addiction. What we're talking today is about the emotional side of it. And often it starts in childhood, and it starts with parents who were wounded in their own childhoods. And because they were wounded, they may think that their parents were terrific, but actually they didn't get what they needed emotionally and sometimes physically as well from their parents, and so they grow up with emotional pain and fear that their life isn't going to work out well. Parents who aren't able to attend to the child's feelings and only pay attention to the child's behaviors are parents who are neglecting their child's emotional development. So what happens when a parent invalidates the child's emotional development by not paying attention to it is that the child begins to not pay attention to what's going on inside of themselves. So if they're feeling sad, if they're feeling upset, if they're feeling disappointed, if they're feeling anxious, those feelings don't get paid attention to by the parent. So the child then doesn't learn to express those feelings.
Yeah.
And the child begins to not notice those feelings within themselves. Those feelings are painful feelings.
We mirror what we see.
We mirror what we see and what we're taught.
What we are taught, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so if the parent hasn't learned how to express their emotions, then then they teach the child through their lack of understanding that emotions are not something that matter. And I have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, by this time in my career, of people who say, "Yeah, emotions really are not important. What's important is behavior, and what's important are the choices you make. And if you make the right choices, then you're on the right road."
And what's missing here, and I have had that in my clients, and I have some right now that they are highly emotionally blocked, and they say exactly what you just said. Said what people miss out here, and that's a huge point, that our behavior is basically controlled by our emotions.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Right. But people don't see that.
But people don't see that, right? And
right.
What creates our behavior, basically, which is the end result of everything, that means, and everything is our how we perceive things, therefore how we believe things, and how we think about things, and how we feel about it becomes our behavior.
Right. Right. So the feelings impact our behavior, and so if the feeling is a negative feeling, then the behavior will come out with the person acting in a negative way. What does that mean? That means that the person then believes that that what they're doing is okay because they don't have anyone to tell them that they're feeling, to ask them about their feelings. Our feelings are our inner life.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
That's a nice phrase.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so in our inner life, we get internal cues as to what's going on with us. If I'm sad and I talk to you about my sadness, and you can see that I'm sad through my voice tone, you can see that I'm sad because I start to get teary. You can see that I'm sad because I'm hanging my head and I'm not standing up straight and smiling. That's going to impact you. But if you say to me, "What's the matter?" and I'm starting to tear, and my head is hanging, and I'm not able to verbalize that I'm sad, you're going to say, "What's the matter?" And I'm going to probably say, "Nothing."
Yes.
Nothing. I'm okay.
Oh, but how many times I have heard that?
Right.
What's going on? Nothing.
Right.
What's going on? Nothing.
Right. Right. And the nothing usually comes because the person who's saying nothing either A, is not recognizing what's going on inside of them, which is a distinct possibility, or B, doesn't feel safe to share it. But one of those two, sometimes both. Sometimes they sort of know something's going on. Maybe they even know that they're sad, but they don't feel like it's appropriate to share that.
And I'm going to add the C to it, that they may believe that by sharing nothing's going to change anyway. So what's the point?
Correct. Or D, that maybe by sharing it'll get worse.
Or it could get worse. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that goes on the category of not feeling safe.
Not feeling safe. Right. Yeah. So why would a person not feel safe to say, "I'm feeling sad"? And why would it be important for that person to even say, "I'm feeling sad"? Right? What we know about feelings is that feelings are contagious.
Yes.
So, and we know that because we know that everything in the universe is composed of energy, and that includes us as human beings. We are energy. And emotions, a euphemism for emotion is E-motion, which is energy in motion. So emotions are that part of us where our energy is coming up to get expressed. It moves through our body and it gets expressed. Why is it important that we express it? Because otherwise it gets stuck in our bodies. And if energy gets congealed and stuck in our bodies, then it creates physical symptoms and also causes us to get stuck in our life. We get stuck because we have congealed energy. This is actually the Chinese philosophy of healing, which is about acupuncture and acupressure. It's about freeing up congealed energy. That's what acupressure and acupuncture are about. And we don't actually need to do that if we are emotionally healthy and can express our feelings verbally and through our bodies. So if we are upset and we say that to someone, I'm feeling upset, and the person cares about us and they say, well, tell me, and the person is listening to us, we will see that person reflecting back to us their caring and their love and their understanding. And as we express our feelings and we get back their caring, their love, and their understanding, we start to feel relieved. That's how emotions work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And to do that, to have that exchange, both people need to be authentic towards each other.
Authentically caring.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And also to be able to receive and exchange, empathy.
Right. And empathy is different than sympathy.
Yes.
In that sympathy is, I'm really sorry that you're feeling that way. Empathy is, I know exactly what you're feeling.
Well, and yes, so we say that, and I have said that, and then they have, sometimes I have questioned myself. Do I really know how this person is feeling? Because realistically, we can guess how the other person can feel unless we have been there ourselves, which is most therapists. This is how a good therapy works because, client looks at us, as their role model, right? So
just like they do with parents.
Just like they do with their parents, exactly. So how I am in therapy and how authentically I can really be empathic to the person. That means that I put myself in their shoes and actually wear the shoe and actually feel the pedal in my shoe.
Correct.
Right? Unless that happens, I really cannot say, I can only, I can understand how you feel. I can say probably I can only imagine how you feel, and ask for more reflection, ask for more, exploration of that. So I can get close to what's going on with the client, with the person. So, empathy is a very, very delicate, concept here. And I'm glad you said the difference with that, with sympathy. Yeah.
So to me, empathy is always a work in progress.
Yes. Yeah.
Because what you said is totally accurate. If we haven't had the exact experience, we can't know the exact feeling that the person has. However, we can have an approximation of that feeling. As human beings, we all have the same feelings. We all feel sad. We know what sadness feels like to us.
Right.
Each person experiences their sadness as that person. When you're sad, I can relate because I've been sad, but I can't know exactly how your sadness feels to you.
Right.
But I can learn more about as we continue to share with each other about more what it does feel like to you, and that will help me to become more empathetic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, what happens when a parent hasn't had that by their parent? Then the parent hasn't experienced empathy from their own parent, and therefore they may not know that that is healing or that they need it or when they need it.
Well, what they experience and how they grow up with it, which went unprocessed, is just, going to be transferred to their children. So that's the generational transfer. I mean, it's no surprise that when we look at, family dynamic of individuals, and we go back a few generations through genogram, right? We can recognize that the pattern of life and the belief and the feelings and everything looks the same. Right. So that means that from one generation, how far back it started, the same process just transfers to the next one, and the next one gives it back, gives it, away to the next one, and so on.
Correct.
Without examination. So that type of dynamic, therefore it feels so normal. Because nobody has decided to shaken up the system and to see, well, let me see why the system is operating this way.
Right. And so what I want to say about this is why so many people still believe in spare the rod and spoil the child. Or another way of saying it, so many people still believe in physical punishment.
Right.
Right. Because they believe that they were physically punished.
And look how good they turned out.
And they believe that they turned out very well. And so they think that their children should be physically punished. And what is missing in this is the person who is physically punished simply learns to be obedient. But what they don't learn is how to become more expressive and how to be more their loving, authentic, true selves, because they're too busy trying to be obedient in order to avoid being punished.
Exactly.
So if we want to raise obedient children, then we can be harsh with them and punishing with them. And unfortunately, this is what happened. This has happened throughout the world and happened during Germany and Nazi Germany, where they raised obedient people who then followed the leader into hell.
Exactly. So let's talk more about this.
We will talk more about it, and we'll see you back in a few moments.
Welcome back to our personal breaks. Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. We're talking about codependency, relationship addictions, and trauma, and heavily focused on the matter of if punishment, useful, and we know that the side effect of that, right, with Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Yeah. We're starting to give lip service, and actually some countries and some states are actually doing more than giving lip service to the idea that punishment is not a healthy way of treating the people who break our laws.
And sometimes they even don't know why they are punished.
What do you mean?
Like children don't know why they are punished.
Oh, children.
Sometimes.
Yeah. No, right. Sometimes children don't know why they're being punished. Yeah.
But those who act criminally, of course, they know why.
Yeah. But what I was starting to say about that we're starting as a human species, we're starting to become aware that punishment is not necessarily the best alternative to treat people who have broken the law. And so people say, well, what are you going to do? You're going to let them run loose? And I say, well, no, of course not. But we don't have to punish them. What we can do is we can educate them. Now, that being said, there may be people who won't be educated. There may be people who are committed to breaking the law. And of course, we have to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe as a society from those people. I would not say that we need to do away with the police. We need the police, certainly with where we are now in our human development. But what we're learning in child development, and this goes throughout life, is that education is the best way of ensuring that people will be good people. And and the kind of education that we are still lacking is education in the emotional arena.
Yes.
And in the arena of of becoming more and more empathetic and loving towards other people.
You know, a long time ago, I saw this quote on LinkedIn, which really got my attention. I don't remember it fully, and I don't know who said that. But what I remember from it is that, you know, that we go to school for on average for like about 6 and a 6, 12, and then another 4 years, like about 16 years minimum, right? We go to school.
Well, you mean if we get a college degree?
If you get a college degree,
Right,
exactly.
Right, but we go to school for 12 years
For 12
without
years
it.
without, yes. And then not even once during all these important years of, you know, the development and growing up and self-growth and learning about ourselves, there is a subject matter called, you know, learning about your emotions, learning about your feelings, learning about your true self, and learning about love and intimacy. We don't have any subject under that.
Mhm.
And the person who was saying this, they said that he wished that, you know, somebody would have taught him those things.
Right, right. And the basis of all of this is that we, Dr. Rashidian and myself, at the end of every program, we say, all you need is love.
Yes.
Yeah, we are repeating what the Beatles said, but the Beatles had it right in that way because it isn't quite that specific that all we need is love. We need food and water, right? We need shelter. But love is the thing that there's been most written about.
Yeah.
There's been the most movies made about. It's the thing that people talk about a lot. You know how they love this and they love that and they love this person and they're in love with that person and they're struggling in this relationship because they don't know if they love them. It's a conversation that goes on and on and on, and so we don't teach that. We don't teach that love is the way that we are supposed to be vibrating it, that we're supposed to be feeling, and that when we're not feeling love or loving, that's an indication that we're off track.
Yes.
We do not teach that. So what happens to people who haven't been taught that, and what you just said a few minutes ago is accurate, that they grow up and then they have children, and so that since they didn't learn that, they don't teach their children that.
Right. What's to teach? Well, we can't teach something that we didn't, that we don't know and we haven't experienced.
Right, right. And so love is the essence of our soul and the essence of our inner life. And in our inner life, we either feel love or we feel pain.
Right.
Right? There's a book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And I like that book. It's a very simple book. I'd recommend it to the audience. I think it's by Gerald Jampolsky, but it's called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And basically the idea is that when we're in fear, we're not feeling love. Because love is a feeling of connectedness, it's a feeling of peacefulness, it's a feeling of warmth, it's a feeling of oneness, it's a feeling of belongingness. And when we feel all those feelings, we're happy. That's what makes us happy, is those feelings.
Yeah, and you know, probably the word love is the most talked about and the most explored word in the whole vocabulary.
Yes.
You know, and there are still, you know, more definitions and more concepts are developed every day as we speak about love. So imagine the depth of this word, the depth of what really love is. Nobody, not one single person has been able to really explain it. Well, even though we have all this amazing literature about love, you know. Everybody can add their own definition of, how it feels to them.
Again, it's the essence of who we are.
Essence of who we are.
Right. But we are living in bodies, and those bodies can be hurt, and those bodies can die. And so we were given these bodies, and along with it, we have fear, and the fear is there to tell us that we need to take care of the body, right?
Correct.
And that's what we call the ego. The ego is that part of us that is connected with taking care of our bodies.
Right.
And the ego is very powerful. The ego has been there with us as long as man has walked the earth. The ego will be there as long as we have bodies. And as long as there is ego, the ego's job will be to take care of our bodies. And now we live in a society in the United States where many people don't have to worry about dying on a daily basis. There are people who do, but a lot of us don't. A lot of us, who are a middle class or upper middle class or rich people, they have survival pretty much taken care of. So the ego, not to be left out of a job, then expands its influence into what I call emotional survival. And emotional survival to the ego feels as important as physical survival. So emotional survival means that I cannot allow you to hurt my feelings being a substitute for my body. You cannot hurt my feelings or you will kill me, says the ego. So the ego then says, if you hurt my feelings, then I'm going to hurt your feelings. And so now we're in a physical fight, except it's not physical. It's an emotional fight where you've hurt me and now I'm going to hurt you back. And we do that through our words and through our actions. We call it revenge.
Right.
And the ego loves revenge, right? So when we get our feelings hurt, part of us wants to hurt the other person back even more than they hurt us to, quote unquote, teach them a lesson.
Yes, and that's how we feel safe.
That's how we feel safe,
yes.
And our ego is all about feeling safe, right?
Yes.
So in the book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, basically Dr. Jampolsky says that we can view fear as a lack of love, and we can view fear as a desire for love, because there is nothing that heals fear except for love. But since we don't know that, because our egos are so powerful, we believe that we need to get physically and emotionally more powerful than our neighbor. So what we do then is we create bombs where the bomb now can, instead of kill 1,000 people, it can kill 1,000,000 people. And we do that on an emotional level as well.
Yes.
We just try to destroy the person who has hurt our feelings. And as long as we continue to do that, we will continue to have evil in the world, because that's what evil is. Evil is about hurt feelings going viral. So, what happens when we are raised by parents who don't teach us those values and who are in ego themselves? We grow up without those values, and we grow up in ego, and then we are able then to transfer that survival mentality to the people around us.
And the cycle continues.
Yes.
So
what happens then when we're raised by parents who are wounded themselves, who are inadequate in terms of teaching us these type of things, and they're unable to give us emotional support? We learn how to repress our own inner life so that we cannot express our negative feelings, and we cannot then get release from those negative feelings. So what we do instead of getting release from those negative feelings is we take the second best thing and we look for relief from the negative feelings. Relief from the negative feelings is about addictions and about codependency, because addictions, if I smoke the marijuana, I get relief. I get a feeling of euphoria and my pain goes away temporarily. Then the marijuana wears off and I have to do it again, but I get no release from it. Whereas if I talk about my feelings with someone who's empathetic with me and I get my feelings out, I get release from it.
And that's the the temporarily feeling that the people are mistaken with happiness.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So that's why they keep go back to it and going back to it and going back to it in the search of happiness through substance and alcohol.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And so what happens is you become addicted to the idea that all you can hope for is to feel better temporarily. And you try to extend that, so you try to up the ante. So if you're only smoking one marijuana cigarette a day, if you smoke two, you get more release, right? But you don't get more release, you get more relief.
Right.
And then you have to be smoking all the time. And then, lo and behold, if you're smoking marijuana all the time or drinking all the time, then you don't get any relief because it becomes a normal state for you.
Exactly.
And the pain is still there, even though you're still using your substance.
Exactly.
Then you have to look for another substance.
Yes, and that's how the cycle becomes more repeated, and then the intensity of the substance becomes more powerful.
Right.
It needs to be more powerful.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
In order to generate what it initially generated for the person.
Yes. So invalidation and repression of our inner life, our inner feelings, is also gives us repression of our internal cues. And our internal cues, which is the anger, the sadness, the fear, the disappointment, the anxiety, those cues are there to tell us we need to do something different because our life isn't working the way we want it to work.
Right.
And so that becomes the thing that we have to pay attention to, is the pain that we're feeling, and how do we get rid of the feeling permanently. And using any addiction, including codependence, only gives us relief, but not release. The basis of all of this is that we did not get our emotional needs met. Our emotional needs were neglected.
Well, that's the key point right here, because whatever we don't learn, we crave for it and we want to fulfill it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how about we continue with this discussion the next time?
Well, we could continue with this discussion the next time. And you're saying that because we just got notified.
Right.
So we're going to have to stop for today. We would love to hear from you. If you're not going to have time to call us now, but you can go to our homepage, KMET, and look us up, and we would love to hear from you. We want to know that you're listening, and we also want to know that you're getting something. And if you would like something different, we would love to know that as well.
And we look forward to meet with you again next week at 3 p.m. for another episode of Human Sexuality, and at 4 o'clock about codependency, relationships, addictions, and trauma. And until then, don't forget that all you need is love, and happy Mother's Day.
All you need is love. Happy Mother's Day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.